students in there together, but they split out into those 4 teams. So they're very, very similar. So with that, I'd like to get off the stage and give you a chance to actually talk to some of our students that are currently doing this right now. Joy, it's all yours.
Come on up.
Go on up, guys. Just clip it on anywhere.
So while they're getting mic'd up, just wanted to introduce them. So these are 3 current students, so you're going to get their opinion. I've told them a few questions that I'm going to start off the conversation with, and then we're going to open up to you. So you can get their perspective on what it's been like for them this year going through the Capstone project. So we wanted to give you a little flavor. So we brought Min, who's an EECS, Umesh, an IUR, who's working on in a Capstone experience course with other ME students. So he's on a cross-disciplinary team. And then Zareen, who's working on a traditional university-led Capstone in ME, but she's also working with NASA on her project. So welcome, the 3 of you. So we're going to go ahead and we'll start with Min and then go down the row. If you can give us your elevator pitch. What is your project this year? And then also give us what has been the highlight for you so far.
Sure. My Capstone project is called Self-Driving E-Bike Design. It's a university-led project. We are basically building e-bikes that can drive itself or balance itself without any riders on it. So it's basically a robot bike. The justification for this project is there's the bike sharing programs such as Go bikes or city bikes. Those are very popular and becoming more and more useful. And those programs need a rebalancing operation constantly, and those actually cost about 50%. Those constitute about 50% of the operating cost. So we're trying to make it more efficient by automating the entire process. We already built a small-scale model with a Lego Mindstorm kit. We're still currently building a full-size prototype, and hopefully we get to demonstrate that within the next 2 or 3 weeks.
All right. So I'm working on a project called Classifying Heartbeats with Machine Learning, and so I'll give you the pitch. Every year, 5 million people are admitted to hospital ICUs in the US. When they're admitted, they're connected to something called a patient monitor. And this monitor monitors the well-being of a patient and alerts nurses or other medical professionals if that patient requires attention or intervention. The challenge that we're trying to address is that these monitors sometimes create something called a false alarm, where it believes that an irregular arrhythmia heartbeat event has occurred, and it alerts nurses or other medical professionals when they should not be alerted. Our team is trying to deal with this by using neural nets along with other machine learning techniques to classify and suppress false alarms so that medical professionals will be alarmed for the right reasons. And a highlight for my project so far is I'm working on a cross-functional team, and it's with UCSF Hospital and their College of Nursing. So a highlight is getting to work with people doing really cutting-edge stuff. This project itself is being worked on by some of the brightest in machine learning, especially working on neural nets. If anybody is familiar with a professor at Stanford called Andrew Ng, they just released a paper trying to address this same problem. So it's really close to being at the forefront of technology.
Hi everyone, so my name is Zareen and I'm working on the Tensegrity Robots project. And this is with the Berkeley Emergence Space Tensegrities Lab and the NASA Ames Research Center. And this project has been run for a lot of years here, and even as a capstone project. And currently we're working on the 5th iteration of the Tensegrity robot. So Tensegrities are basically soft robots. They're not like your hard Terminator type robots. They're composed of tension and compression components combined together, and you have a payload in the center. So for this iteration of the Tensegrity robot, we're working on building a completely new prototype where we work on motors, actuators, change their springs, work on stiffness. We've come with our entirely own different set of model. And the highlight of my capstone project is that we've just got a drone, and so we're going to be dropping our Tensegrity from a drone, and we're going to be understanding that when it impacts, can it roll away and walk? This robot is designed to actually land on another planet and also to land here on Earth. And if we want something like that, we have to ensure that once it's dropped, it's been able to survive that impact, and on surviving that impact, it's also able to roll away. Another highlight of the project is actually getting to work with a lab in Berkeley that has super PhD mentors and people from NASA Ames that you get to interact with really frequently. That's exciting.
So the next question is, what has been your most enjoyable teaming moment so far? And first to Umesh and then to Min.
Most exciting teaming moment. I don't know if this was covered earlier, but there's something called the Winter Spotlight that happens in the first semester, and that's where teams get to kind of showcase what they've done over the semester and compete amongst one another to be innovative. Our team won, so that's great. And, the reason why this is exciting is because while everybody is doing really amazing work, like you've heard what everybody's doing already, part of the challenge is being able to showcase that idea and being able to explain that idea to people that either are not technical or maybe just not interested in hearing the technical details of it. So being able to engage with an audience with a diverse background as well as a diverse knowledge base is really cool, and trying to showcase your idea in a creative way was really exciting. So we managed to do a really good job of that, and that's why we won.
We didn't win that challenge. It was still a very enjoyable experience. My favorite moment that I still remember is that I mentioned that our project, for our project, we also built a small-scale model with a Lego kit. And I still remember the moment that it actually balanced itself and then moved across a certain trajectory. It wasn't perfect. It didn't run very long, but it did balance itself for a considerable distance, and that was actually a very memorable moment for me.
So how has your capstone experience helped you integrate your technical expertise with the leadership and communication skills that you've learned here so far? So first to Zareen and then back to Min.
So the capstone kind of integrates both your leadership and your technical skills. And throughout the semester, in the fall and spring, you're going to be having a lot of leadership courses that some of them are mandatory in the boot camp, and others you can maybe take from the Haas School of Business or something that's optional, and you can take that additionally. So right now we're currently having, and this is a year-long unit that you have to take, and that is like communication for engineering leaders. And as part of that class, you learn to give certain deliverables at the given deadlines, and it kind of integrates what you learn in your capstone, your technical aspects, and it helps you portray that really well in a written kind of environment. And one of the things that we're working on right now, and something that you saw here, is a promotional video. So that's something that we do as part of the class very often. One of the other classes that I really enjoyed was teaming and project management, where you learn different things like how to identify important stakeholders, leadership, different components that you can merge very well, and you can get to know your team and work effectively in that. And considering that my project was more of a lab-oriented project, I essentially didn't have a lot of interaction with different industries. For example, you might have seen the project with GM where you get to go there. Those people got to go to Arizona and interact with them. So the leadership components actually help you go out of your lab and help you communicate what you've actually done, which is really exciting.
For me, the most memorable thing about my project is our project. What a goal wasn't exactly set in stone at the beginning phase of our of the semester. We were sort of given a little bit of freedom to explore what kind of space that we want to go into, and that actually forces us to think a lot about the project management aspect of our project, because you have a lot of restraints in terms of resource and time. And we ended up picking a topic that is very interesting to us. And during that process, there was a lot of different communication between the team members and our advisors, resource allotment, and you actually learn a lot about these skills during your communication classes and project management classes in MH program. So it helped us a lot, and I think we're on the right track at the moment. But yes, those are sort of my experience.
Okay. Is there anything you wish you had known earlier, say like in April, that you would like to tell the potential incoming students about the Capstone project? So Umesh first, and then Zareen.
Sure. So I'm going to make an assumption that people in the audience, either they're deciding or they've already decided, but part of the reason you're coming to this program is because you're going back to industry or looking for your first job afterwards. And something that was part of my decision making was, what is this project going to do for me, and what can I do with this project? I believe that companies don't care about the courses you take. Like, they want to see what type of portfolio you have. So if you're a mechanical engineer, you want to have a design portfolio. If you're an IOR student, you're looking to go into data science, you want to show data science projects. That, to me, is what people care about when they talk to you about your interviews, or like when they interview you, they want to know what you've done and how you've done it to actually demonstrate the abilities that you have, not just say, I took data science for engineers 1. So with that said, when I was looking for the capstones, I looked at projects that I felt would allow me to develop or cultivate skills that I felt was important for the jobs that I wanted to land on the other side of the program. And so that's why I chose this project. It was something that would allow me to flex a new skill and develop a new skill in something that I found was interesting. So it's not necessarily something that I thought I would have liked to have known, but I think that it's important to keep that in mind when you're trying to figure out a capstone that is best for you, and trying to figure out how that aligns best with your future goals, if it's to return to industry and to try to land a specific type of job.
I think I agree with Umesh on a lot of his points as well. Your capstone project, essentially it's a year-long project, so you want to make sure that you're working on something that you're passionate about. And having said that, when you're going to the capstone marketplace, go with a broad mind. Go with a mind that even if you get a project in medical, you'll have a look at it and see if it interests you. So go with that broad mindset. And when you see a capstone project, you're going to be essentially having a long list which says requirements. I would personally say that don't get kind of freaked out by looking at the requirements, because there are going to be a lot of them. You should know this, you should know that. You should be going in a capstone project not knowing everything, but be able to learn a lot of things, because it's very intensive. You're going to be working on it every week with your team. Till now we're in the last month of it, and a lot of us are still on the last final results of our capstone, where we're working intensively every week. So go with a broad mindset. I think I would give that key takeaway from my experiences.
Cool. So now we have just a few minutes to open it up to you guys as the audience to ask any burning questions you have about Capstone next year. So raise your hand, and Julie or Beth will come give you the mic. And please direct your question to either a specific student or myself or Wayne, and we can answer your questions. So, yeah. Raise them high, raise them proud.
Hi, I was interested to know about what your plans were for after graduation.
Who do you want to ask? Pick one.
You guys get to pick.
Do you have a wish? or-
Yeah, sure. I like it. So it's kind of getting into the weeds, but my background was in mechanical engineering, and I worked for a couple of years before I came here. And so I have a fair bit of experience, and I went into IOR to trying to develop a new skill set. So I'm sitting on a couple offers right now. I'm deciding if I want to. I have an offer at Apple right now to join one of their specialty teams. It's kind of a cross-functional team on modules that allow you to create your new iPhone or your Mac or whatever. And I'm deciding between that and some other decisions, but that's my...
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm actually joining Apple. I actually also have some industry experience before I came here. I worked for Apple's competitor, Samsung Electronics, for about 6 years. And I'm joining the iPad development group. So
Nice.
Open question to the first taker. How do you feel your schedule was during this capstone? Was it hectic for you? Was there a lot of time intensively spent on developing these?
Okay, I think I can take this one. So how our capstone worked is that we had a very structured approach from the very beginning. So we had weekly deliverables where we made sure that every week when we have a team meeting, we ensure that we meet those deliverables, and if not, how should we proceed with that? And having said that, so your timeline really depends upon what type of capstone project you end up taking. So if it's like the capstone experience that you're taking, you don't have much. You take a class during the fall, and then in the spring you start working on your capstone. So my capstone was essentially a year-long capstone. So we started working on a lot of stuff in the fall, and then getting things together in the spring. In the spring, it's much more intensive. But then for my capstone in the fall, we had, I think we put the same amount of work because we're just getting started. You're transitioning into something that maybe you're not very aware of. So you have to do a lot of background things, understand a lot of things about robots, etc. The structure of it really depends upon which type of team you're in. So in our team, we have weekly meetings and separate meetings for the team as well. And in some other capstones, it might be a different way of how they go about it.
I'm just going to quickly add. So I did a capstone experience course, which is different. We didn't start in the fall. We probably should have. Because the type of project that we were doing, it was a capstone experience course, but the amount of work that required to be done was much more than we wanted to do and try to tackle in 4 months. So we did try to start earlier, but with that said, like Zareen said, we had a course that we take that gives us the tools for our capstone in the fall, and then you get to start your capstone in the spring, and that means that you're backloaded a lot on the work that you have to do. So for me, my first semester was busy, but for different reasons. And my second semester has been very busy trying to do 8 months of work in 4 months.
I have a general question for either one of you three. Is there a specific project leader for each group? And if there is, would you recommend students trying to aim for that role? And if they don't, what would they be missing out on?
Yes. Well, I don't know if they're actually called project leader. I definitely call them managers. I'm the manager for my team, but there's only 3 people. And it doesn't really feel like being a leader. It's more about you're taking care of a lot of the details. You're taking care of a lot of big picture stuff. I definitely recommend it. You definitely learn a lot by doing that, taking on that kind of responsibilities, especially in terms of research allotment, scheduling, managing the expectations, et cetera, et cetera. So I definitely recommend it.
Before we go to the next question, there's a couple of things I just wanted to add. One, on the last question, yeah, we let the teams figure out how they want to do that themselves. We think it's a really important learning experience, and different teams do different things. On the previous question, yes, we realized that the model we used this year of the Capstone Experience course, putting everything, trying to really heavily weight into the spring, wasn't ideal. So next year they're going back into a more even balance between the fall and the spring. It got pretty crazy, didn't it?
Yeah, not great.
I had two quick questions. So first question, just a logistical question for Minion. EECS, what was your depth for EECS?
For my coursework or
the project depth? Like
well, so we were basically building a control system. So control system, it's you got to know about that. We built some circuits. I've done that. Actually, I've had some previous experience from my work at Samsung, so that was taken care of. There's a embedded systems guy who's not here today, but he's taking care of a lot of software in terms of implementing the embedded system into the board. There's a lot of like physical builds as well regarding like power electronics, motors, sensors. Sensors are not too difficult. I mean, you can just buy them off a SparkFun or whatever, but you still need to know how to wire them up. Yeah.
Okay. And second question is, how was the onboarding experience for the whole process of selecting a capstone project? This is free for all.
So for EECS, I think the process was so EECS have different areas of concentration that you choose from. So mine is physical electronics, and there was a list of projects that I could basically choose from. I submitted like my preferences. I talked to some of the advisor, and then they sort of chose it for me after that. But this was my one of my top choices.
Maybe Zareen?
Yeah, and also I feel EECS was a little different from how the other majors do it. So how it usually happens is that you get your list of projects before you come in. That's before you come in August, and you can just have a look at it. I think the list is tentative. It gets finalized later on, and then once you come in, you have this, I think it's a 2 or 3 day marketplace that they call the Capstone Marketplace. It's right here in Blum Hall, and you get to see all the projects. You have the schedule where you get to meet with the people, the advisors, the PhD mentors, or anyone who's working on that project. They come show you. You can talk to them, ask them your questions, and once you do that, then you actually submit your preference. And we did it on a platform called EduSourced. I'm not sure if if it's still using that. Oh, that's great. So we submit your preferences out there, and then the project leader gets to know about it. Now, every project, the way they accept people is very different. Some of them may choose to interview you, or some of them may just look at your profile, your resume, and then accept you. So it's very much like you applying for a job when you want a capstone. The process is very similar. So make sure you guys have your updated resumes, etc., ready.
Hello, I have a very general question. I'm pretty sure, 1 year ago, like when you guys are deciding what program you want to take, you probably learned a lot about the program, about Capstone. You probably also attended this event, and you probably have a lot of expectations of what you will go through in this 9-month studying period. My question is, what's the biggest surprise to you, for you guys, and what deviates most from your expectations? It's a question for any of you.
I would say that I don't think it really missed what my expectations were. Like I try to allude to, you kind of set it up for yourself. So if you take a project that you're not interested in and you don't work on it, then you get what you get. And if you pick a project that you're really excited about and you work really hard, you're going to have something cool to talk about at the end of it. I really, at least for me, the way that I approached it was, how does this allow me to contribute towards a portfolio of cool projects? And because of that, that kind of allowed me to focus how I wanted to spend my time on the project and where I wanted to focus my efforts. So I don't know if that answers your question, but in terms of the surprise part, I didn't feel like I was too surprised about what happened, other than the Capstone experience portion of it being a crazy spring. Yeah.
So I think we have time for 2 more questions. So one on this side, and then, you want to keep going? Okay, Beth wants to keep going.
If you guys had one more semester, would you like to build up on your technical expertise more, or learn more about business and management skills?
I think I can, do you want to go on?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So one thing about the program is it's really short, it's accelerated, and that's, essentially because that it's industry oriented and it's meant for people who want to, kind of get an experience after they graduate. But if I did have one more semester, I would definitely, take a lot of at least 2 more technical electives, because like in one semester, I think if you take more than 3, you're going to get overburdened. So if I had one more semester, I would probably do 2 more and, kind of understand a few things more in detail, which I would have wanted to. But, considering that the program is very short, you sometimes tend not to get to that depth of it. But that's essentially also because you're taking technical and your leadership skills in that 1 year. Yeah.
Same. I would love to take more technical classes. There's so many good classes here in Berkeley. If you're one of the EECS person who's doing electrical engineering, I highly recommend the fabrication classes. I think it's 247 is a course number. It's very unique to Berkeley. There's not a lot of schools that offer that kind of experience. I didn't get to take it, and that's one of my biggest regret that I couldn't do that. So, technical class.
As far as your experience a year ago, do you think a year ago you could have taken some classes that, or do something on your own, like improve your programming, that would have helped you now, so would make your success easier?
Yeah, I'm old, so I've been out of school for some time, and jumping into I'm pivoting careers, arguably. So trying to catch up on linear algebra and statistics and probability, you go really quickly, and if you have not brushed up on that, you're gonna have a lot of homework to do additionally. So if you, kind of like anything, if you're interested in learning a skill, be a self-starter, learn about it, or just do some of your own time on it. And if you aren't, then you'll just do it during school time.
Just brush up on your fundamentals, definitely. Like all engineers probably should know how to do, like, I don't know, linear algebra, differential equations a little bit. If you're a computer science person, brush up on your fundamental coding skills. Definitely will help. If you're an electrical engineer myself, just go through like your basic microelectronics course. I know it's not easy, but that's definitely going to help you.
Yeah, and for ME grads specifically, make sure that you know your software as well. If you're in product design, you should be you should be very familiar with the CAD modeling tool. So, at least, have an understanding of how that works. Brush up on your fundamentals, ME basics. I'm taking this class right now, which is modeling and simulation of advanced manufacturing processes, and it requires you to understand not only manufacturing, but what goes on beyond that. So then, if there's like 3D printing taking place, how that's essentially, how do you program that? So you should be, even though you're an ME, just make sure that you know MATLAB, you know your basic programming as well. So that's something that I had to kind of do additionally while I was here.
Hi, I have a kind of general Capstone project question. I think that the projects that you guys were talking about kind of was like there was an idea and then you guys had to figure out how to implement it and do the whole thing yourself. Is that typical? Are the projects like wholly your own, or is it sometimes latching onto maybe a research that a professor has already been doing? What's like the ownership of these projects?
That's actually a really good question, because it really depends from project to project. So you saw the project on the Capstone on open house. That was something that that they came up entirely on their own, and they went to a faculty and spoke about it. But on the other side, how I can talk about my Capstone, about how that essentially works is we've been working for it. The lab's been working for it for about 5 years. So when we came in, we knew what the problem statement was, what we were looking to do, but then there's a lot of creativity in the way of how you can steer the Capstone project in the direction that you want it to. So there's a lot of, I think in my project in specific, there's a lot of opportunity for you being as creative as possible with any of the designing of the robot, the hardware. We're designing a drop mechanism, and it's like you can be as creative as you want, and that's something that the lab has not been working on. So that's something that we've come up entirely on our own. But as like when you see the project list, you'll be seeing a problem statement, and that's essentially that can be it depends on the capstone type, but then it can be from what the person has been working on. So if they're working in a lab and they have this, they'll propose that, and then you can see if that fits with your skill sets, etc. If you want to do that. So just have a look at the list very, very carefully and see what you're interested in.
Last question over here, and you'll have plenty of more question time with our next group of panelists. So.
Hi, so I had a question about how you guys maybe had an opportunity to reach outside of your department and learn some skills that aren't directly offered or taught, but that you would then be able to apply to maybe your Capstone project, or maybe just some interesting skill that you really wanted to learn.
Yeah, okay. You aren't really restricted on what you can take here, as long as you meet the prerequisites. So if you're interested in doing a computer science course and you're not in computer science, you're allowed to take it as long as the professor who's teaching that course is okay and you have no time conflicts with your core courses. I'm taking an environmental course right now, which is really neat. It's on wildlife biology, and it has nothing to do with what I'm doing for my degree. But it's really interesting because it's something I care about and it's something I'm interested in, and I get to go and do this. And I think that anybody who is interested in finding a course or finding a skill, there are so many resources here, both through student groups as well as through faculty and departments and training events and workshops. So take advantage of those. You aren't restricted to just staying in your department. And as soon as you take advantage of that, you're going to open yourself up to way more skills, whether it's professionally or personally interest motivated.
So just adding on to what Umesh said, I didn't take any extra courses, but essentially I wanted to learn something about entrepreneurship. So we have a citrus foundry in ST8. So then I just went there, spoke to them, and they have a program of founders in residence. I'm just like part of that program where I just get to go there, interact with different entrepreneurs. So it's essentially, how you want to take this program, which direction you want to take, and what you want to learn. And in Berkeley out here, you don't have any restrictions on the number of electives that you can take unless you meet the requirements, of course, and there are no time conflicts. And that, so just make sure that you explore different options as much as you can here.
So hopefully, if you didn't have a chance to ask your questions with these three, they'll be joining us for lunch. So you can ask your questions there. But I want to thank you guys so much for giving your lived experience of your Capstone project.
Thanks.